Today, our topic is one that is very dear to me, and I'd like to begin it with a question for you. Are you a philanthropist? Welcome to nuVolutions. I'm Harck, your host and creator of nuVolutions podcast, and together we explore and experience what it means to be living on the edge of creation. I'm really honored you're here. Are you a philanthropist? In the last many decades, perhaps centuries, the word philanthropy has somehow begun to mean or become a different meaning. It's come to mean that those who have perhaps an excess or who hold great amounts of wealth or who control great amounts of wealth look out among those who perhaps are perceived to be in need of some of the distribution of that wealth. And foundations and trusts and donations and charitable organizations have all, or have many, have benefited from such forms of philanthropy. And that's not actually the meaning of the word. The meaning of the word philanthropy does not mean I have so much that I'm now willing to give to you, or I have a responsibility to manage a trust or a great amount of inheritance or a great amount of earnings. And part of my value then is to contribute, or as they say, give back or give forward. Philanthropy doesn't mean, the word itself doesn't mean any of that. So let's take a look and see, are you a philanthropist, and perhaps the new face with the original definition of philanthropy? I bet you are. Philanthropy, it's a word that comes from two Greek, previously Latin words, phil or philo, which means love, loving. So this whole process of being a philanthropist, this experience of being a philanthropist, is one of loving. Anthropos, the rest of the word, means mankind. All humanity. Loving humanity. So with this in mind, you'll hear that there's no reference whatsoever to loving humanity under any circumstances that have to be preconditioned, like having access to wealth or finances or distributing such wealth and finances. It doesn't preclude that by any means, but it doesn't require it either. Simply loving humanity. So I'll ask you again, are you a philanthropist? Now, this is one of the profound principles of nuVolutions, philanthropy. And it's probably one of, well, all the profound principles have spoken to me in deep ways. It's how we've come to know them to be such a significant part of this amazing time in which we live and why we're gathered here doing this today. But philanthropy, I remember the moment, the very moment when it woke up in me that I'm a philanthropist. And that the desire, the deep soul desire to be philanthropic has been with me from the beginning of time. This may or may not be your experience as well, but I'd like to share that story with you of how philanthropy just became so, well, let me just tell you the story and you can see. I was in Washington, D.C., and I just finished leading a retreat for the weekend and stayed over a few days to visit with a friend who lives nearby. And she knew that the Annie Leibovitz photography exhibit on women was showing at the time in one of the Smithsonian museums. She said, "Gotta take you." So off we went. And it was spectacular. I've always loved and continue to love Annie Leibovitz's work, and this was no exception. And as we moved through the museum, we were mostly together, and, as museum exhibits that are created wonderfully guide you. They let you move at your own pace and in your own discovery and response. And they have some flow, like you're moving through a river. And we were doing just that. And most of the photographs were of women who you and I would recognize. They are women of importance, women of politics, women of fame, women of entertainment. Recognizable for the most part. Every now and then I'd have to look at the little placard and say, okay, now who is this? Oh, that's right. But mostly I recognized them and simply honored the range of expression that they represented of women of this time. And then I was moving from one part of the gallery to a new one, and the very last little cubby before the threshold of moving into the next part of the museum was a black and white photograph. About that big. So it wasn't the grand photos. It was this small, in my memory at least, photo, black and white, where most were in color. And it was such a dramatic difference to everything else that I stopped and I looked at it and I wondered, who is this? It was a full body shot of a woman, a black woman, in a cotton shirt dress. I think she might have had on an apron. I'll find the photo perhaps and share it with you as well. And she was standing outside, and I wondered, who is this? Why is this here? And then I read the placard. It said her name, and it said, Washerwoman Philanthropist. I had one of those moments where everything around me stopped. One of those quantum physics kinds of moments where the air changes and the timing and the people and the sounds and the space around you ceases to be what it was only a moment ago. I was that kind of in pause and in awe. Philanthropist washerwoman, this very simply dressed, standing outside in front of a simple building. Again, I'll share the picture with you. And it may or may not have the same impact on you, but the influence it had on me was the words washerwoman and philanthropist had never, ever occurred to me that they could be together. How could a washerwoman, how could a woman who does laundry be a philanthropist? Because you see, I was so influenced by the meaning of philanthropy as it has been kind of controlled and conditioned in our recent decades and centuries. But she was a blend of both that and the ancient meaning of philanthropy. Her name is Osceola McCarty, and maybe you've heard about her. She donated $150,000 in scholarship money to Southern Miss because the people from the bank realized that she had all this money set aside and wanted to know what she wanted to do with it. And there's a whole story behind what happened. But she was 87 years old and had never been to college herself and didn't have family to leave the money to, and became what I think is one of the most remarkable stories of philanthropy, blending the story of conditioning that says philanthropy means you have wealth, and the ancient and perhaps a new face of philanthropy, meaning you love humanity. Blending them both. So, again, I ask you, are you a philanthropist? Do you love humanity? to use your life force, however that is, your personal energy, your time, your resources, your money, your talent, your genius, your gifts, your home, your property, your perspective, your personal version of magic. Do you use your life force in service to and in love with humanity? This is the new face of philanthropy. I imagine you are it. I imagine you are. I mean, why else would you be listening to this or considering yourself among the 5 soul groups of this time of great change? So, as a philanthropist, I have some questions for us. First of all, would you like to reclaim the meaning, the original meaning, together with the morphed meaning of philanthropy, and live as a philanthropist in the way you exist today, in the way that you contribute, in the way that you live your life? And if the answer is yes to any bit of that, then I invite you to begin perhaps to listening to your own personal soul desire. What moves you? My soul desire resonated so dynamically with simply seeing these 2 words, washerwoman and philanthropist, married together, and with the face of this woman looking back at me. That resonance with philanthropy is an experience of soul desire being realized, being recognized. So perhaps you too will begin to notice in the places where your own soul desire gets resonant with ways in which you can express your love of humanity in your most immediate life, perhaps with your family, with the people with whom you live, with your neighbors, with your community. All that's very important, very helpful. And yes, there's the exchange that happens, that's the here and now. But there's more than that. There's the quantum physics part of the ripples of when you generously offer your resources in the love, in the act of love. But not just offer out, but that you do whatever it is you're doing with the love of humanity. So if you work in a company, or you run your own business, or you do manage wealth and are responsible for perhaps for a trust or for the distribution of funds, that you could be asking, how is my love of humanity being expressed through this? Or how can we bring the love of humanity into what we're doing here? It's a shift, it really is, and one that might seem ever so small, except that if you imagine yourself sitting in a boardroom, or in a mastermind group, or in a community meeting, and you show up there with the intention of bringing yourself in love to humanity, what new things might you contribute? What different thoughts, what different contributions would be available? What else might you could create, really? So while I do have a list of places that I could invite you to look, it seems silly because you know your life. Where in your life could just the question of, how can I, in this moment, Or where in the day might I bring my love of humanity just a little bit more into focus? And maybe you'll let me know. To know that there are things that you believe in, you want to support, you want to contribute to as an expression of the love of humanity. Yes, I hope that when you make your donations or when you host events on their behalf, that you do so with a consciousness of yourself being the embodiment of love. So, however you choose to explore, experience, and expand your personal expression of humanity's love, I look forward to hearing about it. I hope you'll share with me. Until next time, I bid you well. I love that you are a philanthropist too. Be well. You'll find more episodes of nuVolutions on iTunes, where you can subscribe to the show. You can also share any episode with someone in your life. And I welcome your comments. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you.